WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar and 7 p.m. in Abuja. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world. We are live on wadr.org. This is Newslink. Welcome. Here are the top stories. Ghana's parliament passes bill to abolish e-levy as declared by Finance Minister Dr. Forsen.
An act to repeal the Electronic Transfer Levy Act 2022, Act 1075, and the Electronic Transfer Levy Amendment Act 2022, Act 1089, and to provide for related matters.
Honourable members, the motion is adopted. The Electronic Transfer Levy Repeal Bill 2025.
The Nigerian army decorates Abdurrahman Ichiani as a full general and takes an oath of office as transitional president. Gambia's Attorney General suggests alternatives to diaspora votes before the National Assembly.
What is possible, in my view, under the law, you allow them to register under their home constituency. Alternatively, you have no option but to demarcate the diaspora into National Assembly constituencies.
And China deepens diplomatic ties with Mali through provision of food aid. Details of these stories and more coming up shortly.
Christopher Aticho with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Newslink begins in the Gambia as the country prepares for the 2026 general elections. Conversations about the inclusion of diaspora voting remains topical. While activists advocate that Gambians living abroad must not be disenfranchised, the country's Attorney General, Dauda A. Jallow, has provided legal education to the National Assembly members on considering two possible options that would grant voting rights to Gambians in the diaspora. This move comes after lawmakers recently deleted a clause in the election bill which would grant Gambians abroad the right to register and vote. This has, however, sparked public unrest and debate in the process. Sankole Janko tells us more in this report.
Since the Gambia's promulgation of the 1997 constitution, the country has not carried out a diaspora voting, although it makes provision for such exercise. The constitution also states out the rules which provides a platform for electoral procedures, including registration and voting, in order to deepen citizens' participation in governance. Speaking before lawmakers on Tuesday, registered and vote in an election.
39.1, which is an entrenched clause of the 1997 constitution, made registration in the Gambia constituency-based. You must be registered in a constituency. You can be registered or you must be registered under a National Assembly constituency.
This means entrenched Section 39 of the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia does not cater for a constituency for Gambians living abroad. Against this backdrop, the Attorney General, Jallow, says there are only two other options that could be explored with a view to granting Gambians the right to register and vote.
We have two options for Gambian diasporans. They could register under their home constituencies, if this is possible. What is possible, in my view, under the law, you allow them to register under their home constituencies. Alternatively, you have no option but to demarcate the diaspora into National Assembly constituencies. Section 88 that divided the Gambia into 53 constituencies is not entrenched. It would require a constitutional amendment if we want to amend that portion.
The Attorney General and Justice Minister Fodo stated that the government is considering a position paper that was presented by a group of Gambians in the diaspora. The Gambia has a strong community presence in the diaspora, and the majority argue they should have a say in national decision-making of the country. It remains to be seen what would be the National Assembly members' next step with regards to granting voting rights to Gambians abroad as the country prepares for general election in 2026.
Sankole Janko filed the report. As part of efforts of deepening diplomatic ties between Mali and China and helping alleviate humanitarian emergency situation in the country, the Chinese ambassador to Mali, Zheng Zhenhao, has donated over 500 food kits to the country's Food Security Commission. This action comes just months after a donation of 2,040 tons of food was made, demonstrating China's continued commitment to Mali. Augustin Colley has more in this report.
The distribution ceremony took place at the Malian Agricultural Products Office, OPAM, chaired by the Minister Commissioner for Food Security, Kadouanin Ak Mohamed Ali, and attended by the Chinese Ambassador to Mali, His Excellency Shen Jikhan. According to the ambassador, this year's donation reflects a tradition that has been respected, supporting the efforts of the country's highest authorities to alleviate the food difficulties of vulnerable populations.
La sécurité alimentaire constitue non seulement
Food security is not only the foundation for peace and development, but also one of the important pillars of Sino-Malian cooperation. As one of the outcomes of the 2024 summit, the Chinese government has decided to provide Mali with new emergency food aid worth approximately 1,724 million CFA francs in addition to the food donation. The Chinese side extends to continue agricultural exchanges and cooperation with Mali, sharing Chinese experiences with our Malian friends on agricultural development and modernization.
modernisation de l'agriculture.
For his part, the head of the Food Security Commission, Kadouanin Ak Mohamed Ali, expressed his gratitude to China.
L'engagement inébranlable.
The unwavering commitment to solidarity that the Chinese nation has always shown towards the people of Mali has never wavered. This package consists of 500 kits, each containing 50 kilos of rice and 5 liters of oil. Mr. Ambassador, these acts of generosity, they demonstrate your sense of sharing to the vulnerable who need comfort during the month of Ramadan, when the human qualities of compassion and solidarity must prevail. It is this spirit of solidarity that characterizes.
C'est bien d'ailleurs cet esprit de solidarité.
The persistent insecurity in the central and north of Mali has caused more people to face destitution, with more than 4 million people faced with food insecurity in 2025.
Augustin Colley filed the report. Still in the Sahel, particularly in Niger, Brigadier General Abdurrahman Chiani was elevated this Wednesday, March 26, 2025, to the rank of Army General and officially invested President of the Republic of Niger. This was at a solemn ceremony marking the official launch of the implementation of the resolution and recommendations of the recently held National Conference. Chiani was also decorated Grand Master of the National Orders of Niger, a symbol of recognition for his commitment to the nation. Here is the President Abdurrahman Chiani speaking at the ceremony.
La présente cérémonie qui nous réunit aujourd'hui manifeste donc de cette.
This ceremony that brings us together today therefore demonstrates this commitment. It is indeed a matter of proceeding with the solemnity that this requires for the signing of the decree promulgating our Charter of Refundation, coupled with the ceremony of my promotion to the rank of Army General. The charter we are adopting today, in terms of its structure, is in line with the classic approach to constitutional texts. It organizes public authorities and establishes the principles and values for the refundation of our republic. But it is truly in its content that the charter innovates. Indeed, it enshrines, among other things, the principle of a popular referendum to allow the people to express their views on any project to establish foreign military bases in our country, as well as unprecedented measures to protect our natural resources so that Nigerians truly benefit from the exploitation of their wealth. Finally, it gives pride of place to patriotism, citizenship, and the protection of the general interest.
À la citoyenneté et à la protection de l'intérêt général.
That's President of Niger, Abdurrahman Chiani. Away from the Sahel, reactions are trailing the publication of a report on the terrorist threat in Benin's northern region. The report, titled Terrorism in Northern Benin, Avoiding a Security Crisis in Boniquara, was initiated by the Timbuktu Institute. The research center emphasizes the declining security situation in the Boniquara commune, which is located in northern Benin. In contrast to the finding of the report, the military leadership in Benin asserts that the situation is under control. Imo Edit reports.
The Timbuktu Institute report highlights a worrying development in the terrorist phenomenon in Baniakora. Numerous testimonies collected by researchers at the African Peace Research Center attest that armed groups are no longer content with sporadic raids. They are now invading the social fabric, insidiously approaching the population. Immediately after the publication of this information, the Beninese army reacted. Colonel Feizu Gumina is the Chief of Staff of the National Guard and Head of Operation Mirador.
The phenomenon is under control, but that does not mean it is completely defeated. There can be infiltrations. There can still be blows that are dealt. However, it remains that we are making every effort to ensure the security of this area and to prevent the threat from reaching the city centers.
In the end, the Timbuktu Institute made recommendations to the Beninese government to end terrorism. Other observers closely monitoring the security situation in Benin also made proposals to stem the terrorist threat. Dr. Abdelaziz Mosi is a lecturer and researcher at the University of Parakou and specialist in criminal economics, radicalization and violent extremism.
I think that providing aid in a one-off manner is not necessarily the solution, because the actions that underpin the territory in this area are deep-rooted reasons related to issues of social justice, governance and citizen participation in collective action.
Finally, in its report, the Timbuktu Institute calls on Beninese authorities to restore trust between the state, security forces and the population. The document also recommends the Beninese authorities stimulate the economy to prevent youth from becoming vulnerable to non-state armed groups.
And that Imo Edet's voice report by WAD House correspondent in Cotonou, Aziz Adam Sole.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's get to Ghana at the moment, because the country's parliament today has passed a bill to abolish the controversial electronic transfer levy, also known as e-levy. The move to abolish the tax has been widely welcomed by many Ghanaians. The bill will now be sent to President John Mahama's desk for assent. The e-levy was introduced in 2022 by the previous government administration, and it was designed to impose a 1.5% tax on electronic transactions such as mobile money transfers, bank transfers and online payments, while others argue that the levy would generate revenue for infrastructure development. It faced significant opposition from the public, businesses and political figures who expressed concern about the impact on digital transaction and the economy. Here is what transpired in Ghana's parliament today.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Electronic Transfer Levy Repeal Bill 2025 be now read the third time. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members, question numbered item 50 at page 12 of today's order paper, accordingly moved by the minister responsible for finance. Any seconder?
Yes, I second the motion.
Honorable members, the motion is moved to repeal bill 2025 is read the third. Honorable members, the question is, those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it.
An act to repeal the Electronic Transfer Levy Act 2022, Act 1075, and the Electronic Transfer Levy Amendment Act 2022, Act 1089, and to provide for related matters.
Honorable members, the motion is adopted. The Electronic Transfer Levy Repeal Bill 2025.
So that was what transpired in Ghana's parliament by the Speaker Bernard Ahiafo, a bill passed by the Finance Minister Dr. Ato Forsen. Still in Ghana, the crucial constitutional process has begun following the submission of 3 petitions seeking the removal of the country's Chief Justice, Gertrude Saki Tokonu. In response, President John Mahama has initiated consultations with the Council of State, a move that would have far-reaching implications for the country's judiciary. WAD House Nadi Detete reports.
President John Dramani Mahama has begun consultations with the Council of State after receiving 3 petitions calling for on the removal of the Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Tokono. According to a statement from the Minister for Government Communications, Felix Kwachi Ofosu, the petitions have been duly forwarded in accordance with Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution, which outlines the process for the removal of judges and a Chief Justice. While details of the petitions remain undisclosed, this development sets in motion a constitutional process that could significantly impact the judiciary. The Council of State is expected to review the petitions and provide counsel to the President on the appropriate course of action. This is not the first time Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono has faced such a challenge. In January, former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo dismissed a similar petition filed by Professor Stephen Kwaku Asare, which alleged misconduct and constitutional breaches. After a review process, it was determined that the petition lacked merit and did not warrant further action. Under Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution, a Justice of the Superior Court or a Chairman of a regional tribunal may only be removed from office on grounds of stated misconduct, incompetence, or an inability to fulfill their duties due to physical or mental incapacity. For WDR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
Security authorities in Borno State, located in northeastern Nigeria, says that the sustained cooperation among multiple agencies has significantly weakened the terrorist groups operating in the region. The state has faced over a decade of insurgency. The police public relations officer for Borno State, Commander ASP Nahum Dasu Kenneth, informed WADR's Usman Umar that this coordinated effort has greatly contributed to the progressive peace currently being experienced in the state. Take a listen.
It is indeed no doubt that the Boko Haram insurgency activities had happened here for over a decade, like you likely mentioned. In the previous years, we used to have so many attacks by these insurgents. But currently, what we have from the security situation here in Borno State is that with concerted efforts of all joint security agencies, be able to reduce the capacity of Boko Haram to have any coordinated attack. Back then in the past, in previous years, it used to be bombs, adoption, rape, sexual gender-based violence, and so many other violences that are happening in the states, which are part of the antics of these insurgents to create fear, panic, tension for the people of the state. But celebratedly, I would say in recent times, we've recorded successes where the Borno State's model, where it gave a veritable ground for insurgents to surrender their arms and embrace peace, which they'll be provided with certain skills that will help them to reintegrate back to society. So it has been a collaborative effort that has been put in place for so many years, and it has resulted to the celebrated peace that we've recorded so far in Borno entirely.
Nahum Dasu Kenneth is the police public relations officer in Borno State Command in northeast Nigeria. You're still listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, and around the world we are live on wadr.org. We are also live on Facebook and YouTube. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Ghana's parliament passes bill to abolish e-levy as declared by Finance Minister Dr. Forsen. The Nigerian army decorates Abdurrahman Ichiani as a full general and takes an oath of office as transitional president. Gambia's Attorney General educates National Assembly on crucial factors to consider in diaspora voting. And China deepens diplomatic ties with Mali through provision of food aids. Still ahead in the news, the Liberian armed launches a military patrol across the country's borders aimed at ongoing political activities in neighboring Guinea and Côte d'Ivoire. We also have the guest interview and sports news. Stay with us.
Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Let's head to Liberia at the moment, where the armed forces of the country is currently conducting a military patrol across the country's borders aimed at ongoing political activities in neighboring Guinea and Côte d'Ivoire. Launched as Operation True Guardian, the exercise aims at enhancing national security and strengthening Liberia's border and coastal defense. The military operation comes as Côte d'Ivoire and Guinea prepares for election this year, 2025. Liberia is border bordered by Guinea to the north and Guinea, Liberia, bordering running from Tripoint with Sierra Leone in the western region of the Tripoint with Cote d'Ivoire in the east. Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Takpala is the Public Relations Officer of Liberia Armed Forces and he speaks with WADR.
From all indications, we don't have anything like a threat from elections that will be held in Guinea or in Ivory Coast. But like I said, to ensure the safety of our people, we conduct operations routinely. We will cover all of our border areas. All of our border areas will be patrolled. So the operation is on. The operation has nothing to do with elections in Guinea or in Ivory Coast or in Sierra Leone. The operation is just intended to patrol our borders as well as our interiors. And it is basically to conduct patrols against transnational crimes, like for instance, drug trafficking, against illegal mining in our country, in Liberia. It's also about confidence building. You know, the security of the state is in the hands of the AFL and other paramilitary entities. We are constantly renovating our barracks, and very soon you will see our troops deployed across the country at border areas and so forth.
And that's Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Takpala, he is the Public Relations Officer for the Liberian Armed Forces. So some sad news here in Senegal. The country has lost its lawyer in the person of Kourechi Ba following an illness in Istanbul. The lawyer has been distinguished himself in several major legal cases. He recently defended Senegal's Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko when he was an opposition figure. Mr. Kourechi Ba was an influential voice in the bar, appreciated for his eloquence and bar rigor. Tributes are ready pouring in from the Senegalese judicial and political community. Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, in a tribute, said, and I quote, "I am deeply saddened by the passing of Kourechi Ba. Senegal has lost a talented lawyer, a unique voice for the bar, a man of principle deeply committed to justice and freedoms. I pay tribute to his remarkable career and his constant commitment to defending the law and promoting public debate." End of quote.
Politics,
Analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest is the head of policy, influencing and advocacy at WACSI, Laura Balogun. Speaking to WADR, Balogun explained the importance of ongoing meeting of civil society organizations, CSOs, in West Africa over the meeting of civil society organizations, CSOs, over the declining democratic practices and civic space across the region. Key among the discussions also include the increasing coups and authoritarian regime in the region. The workshop, organized by the West African Civil Society Institute, WACSI, under the Civic Space Resources Hub, aims to deepen understanding of the shrinking civic space in the region, strengthen collaboration between social movements and civic society organization. Here is Omolara Balogun.
So it's really important for the Sahelian country to learn. I mean, we understand that the contexts are quite different, but, civil society working in restricted spaces under military rule is not something that is unfamiliar to us in West Africa. So bringing colleagues, bringing civil society, human rights defenders, activists who have lived those lives before and maneuvered through it and survived it together to share with their colleagues from the Sahel, it's really going to be a great opportunity for cross-fertilization of ideas, for sharing of experiences, and also learning of some new skills, particularly how to utilize legal framework, legal tools, to protect yourself or to even fight the state when some of these injustices happen.
What are the targeted goals and, of course, the expected outcomes from this meeting?
So we have three main objectives for this meeting. The first is to create a space for every one of us to share sharing experiences from Ghana to Nigeria, NSAS to Yenemar, Senegal to Belusitaye in Burkina Faso and the likes, and also to hear feedback from colleagues who are currently working under authoritarian rules, working under, democratic system that is sick and weak is different from working outrightly in military regime, the realities on the ground and how civil society are faring on the ground and the kind of support that they require. The second objective is how we can facilitate better collaboration between the organized civil society and the organic. By organized, we mean the NGOs as you have it, those who are working on social justice, those who are working on legal reform, those who are working on human rights issues. How do we better collaborate with social movements that are loosely formed, that have less structured and all of that? How do we ensure that the causes of social movement are carried on by NGOs that have, ideas and skills to maneuver through processes, systems, institutions of government? So how can we facilitate connections between them? How can we solidify ties? How can we build, a synergy that would last and, yield the impact that we all crave? And the final one is for us to come up with strategies on which, in terms of capacity development, what kind of capacities do we need within this context? As social movement, what capacity do we require? And how an organization like WACSI, who is focused on civil society capacity development, can develop a curriculum that meets the needs of social movement and organic actors.
Omolora Balogun is the head of policy, influencing and advocacy at WACSI. And we can join Sankole Janko for details in the world of sports.
Hello there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Senegal bounced back from their disappointing goalless draw with Sudan to a convincing 2-0 win against Togo on Tuesday night at the Abdoulaye Wade Stadium in Diamniadio. The win has propelled the Teranga Lions to second on the table with 12 points behind DR Congo at the summit with 13 points. Leaders DR Congo defeated Mauritania 2-0. It was the contrast for the Super Eagles of Nigeria as their hopes were dented by a late equalizer from Zimbabwe at home in the Group C encounter. Bafana strengthened their grip on Group C with a composed 2-0 away win in Benin. The draw placed the Nigeria fourth in the table with 7 points and 6 points behind leaders South Africa with 13 points. This means Nigeria must win their remaining 4 matches and hope South Africa slip along the way. Zizou's 45 minutes strike helped Egypt maintain top spot in a narrow win over Sierra Leone in Cairo. Burkina Faso kept up the chase with a hard-fought 2-1 win away to Guinea-Bissau, while Ethiopia produced a shock performance of the round with a 6-1 demolition of Djibouti. Morocco kept their perfect record intact with a 2-0 win over Tanzania to make it 5 wins from 5 and stay top of Group E. Fellow North Africans, Algeria produced a commanding performance to dispatch Mozambique, with Amoura netting a hat-trick to maintain their unbeaten record in the qualifiers. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Maude Juve and Umu Danyugo for the technical assistance. To interact with us on all of our social media platforms, X formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook at WADR English Service. I am Christopher Ticho. Good evening and enjoy the rest of our broadcast.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via